Hi, this is Bonnie from Whistle Stop Clayworks, and today I am going to show you a project that I call personal crests. These are wall hangings that sort of display something about you. This one was one that I made. This quadrant here is my family. Down here in this section is a sport that I happen to like, baseball, with a bat and a ginormous baseball. In this quadrant here is hiking with a little creek and some bushes and a little footpath down here. And the last quadrant are the pyramids of Egypt. So that was a place that I traveled to that I really liked. Down here, you can see a personal crest that my son made. Again, it's also got Egypt down here and our sweet, adorable family. In this quadrant here, it's got a little green snake that he likes, and then here are some sports that he enjoys: soccer, baseball, and billiards. So when you go to make your personal crest, you can look at this little list here and think about things that are important to you. Sports that you may like, hobbies that you may enjoy, favorite foods, maybe a favorite animal. It could be either a wild animal or a pet that you have. You could put your family on there, or perhaps a favorite friend that you have that you like to hang out with. So once you, in your mind, have sort of thought about 4 or 5 things that you would like to put on your crest, you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half, and then you are going to do something that is super smart, and you are going to sketch out your personal crest before you get your clay out. So I'm gonna make mine more in this shield design. So I'm gonna kind of go like this. I'm gonna go like this. And then I'm gonna get my pair of scissors. I'm gonna cut out my personal crest. And then I'm gonna take a look at it, because if I try to roll out my clay immediately and start building and cutting, it's going to be hard to know exactly how I'm going to want it when I use my clay. So if I use paper, that way I can kind of, if I don't like this, I can wad this paper up, get a new piece, and cut out a new crest. So I'm actually okay with how this looks. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my crest things that I'm interested in. So I'm going to put down here, I'm going to draw. I'm not the best 2D artist, but I'm gonna put a little Lego brick. So part of my crest is gonna have a Lego brick. And then down here, I am gonna put a butterfly. So I can kind of plan what I'm gonna have here. So Legos I like, butterflies I like. Maybe over here, I'm gonna put a piece of pizza. Man, it actually kind of looks like pie, but we're gonna put pepperoni, and we're gonna put a little mushroom on here, and maybe some red pepper. So that would be there. And then I like to make pottery. So maybe down here, I will have a really lovely pot. So those will be the elements that I'm gonna create when I do my personal crest. So here is the clay that I'm going to use for the crest. It's about the size of a baseball, perhaps. I'm going to kind of take it and squish it down. I'm just flattening it, trying to make it easier for when I want to roll it out with the rolling pin. So here's my piece. I'm gonna get my rolling pin. Remember, if you don't want to roll it directly on your table or on your rolling pin that you use for your pies, you can always put a bit of newspaper underneath here, and then between the rolling pin and the clay. That will shield your surfaces from the clay for the most part. I'm gonna kind of roll this out. Remember, when you roll, you kind of roll back and forth, but don't go all the way to the edge. Don't let this bit get super, super thin. And then just kind of move it each time. Now you'll want to stop when your clay is about as thick as your pinky. You don't want it to be too papery thin. Lay it out here. I'm gonna get my crest. I'm gonna lay it right on here. I'm gonna take my knife. I'm just gonna go right around my crest. I'm not worried a lot that I'm a little bit off of my crest. I don't mind if it's a little bit bigger than what I had planned. That's okay. Okay, so that looks pretty reasonable. I'm going to take my fingers and I'm just going to kind of go around the edge of these edges, this edges of this crest. Smooth these edges out, maybe flip it over, kind of press this here. It doesn't seem like this clay is very sharp because it is so malleable at this point, but as the clay gets dried out and fired, these sharp edges can actually be really, really sharp when they are dried and fired. So now I have to look at my drawing and think, oh yeah, I need to put these on here. I'm going to start with the Lego bit. So I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than a real Lego. And then I need to make the 6 little sticky up bits. So if I cut these, they'll be more the same size. There, I've got 3 that are about the same size. 4, 5, 6. All right. So I'm gonna put some slip on my Lego top. I'm gonna make little cylinders and I'm gonna press them in here. And that slip ought to make it so they stay right on there. It would be difficult to score these as well, so I think if I just add enough slip, it ought to work. Okay, so there's going to be my first bit, my Lego. Now my butterfly. Sometimes people have cookie cutters that they could maybe use for a butterfly. I do not believe I have a butterfly cookie cutter, at least not at the home studio. So I'm going to roll this clay out just a little thinner, and I'm going to cut out a butterfly. So the knife, while it works all right to cut this out, is probably not going to work so well for a butterfly. So I am just going to use these little scissors, and I'm going to attempt to cut out a butterfly here. There's his little head. And if I pull this out, should have a little butterfly. If you wanted to, you could put little dots like we put here on the Lego. You could give him little dots, and you could kind of look at it and think, maybe could have done a little bit better, and maybe modify it a little bit. But that is a moderately reasonable butterfly. That one could go here. Now a piece of pizza, that won't be too tricky because a piece of pizza is essentially a wedge shape with a little ruffle at the end. So I believe we can probably just use this bit of clay here. Again, I'm just going to flatten it out a little bit. I think I will use the knife for this. Here can be the pizza, and then the crust, maybe I will just make it be a little rough. So there could be some pizza. You can always add some pepperoni. Do some scratching for your pepperoni. And then add your slip. And then the last thing would be my pot. Let's see. Maybe I will change my design because I think that is going to be more difficult than what I want to attempt. Just going to make a little cup. Got a little flat piece of clay. Put a little handle on it. Scratch, 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 scratch. So that is a quick and dirty way to make a personal crest. We would obviously want to take all these little bits, scratch the bottom of these bits, get a decent amount of slip on here. Adhere your butterfly. You do that to the Lego, your cup, and your pizza. Once you were finished with it, you could put 2 holes in it. You could probably put one here and here. When you put holes in, if you put a hole in, make sure that you take your finger and you put the hole here. You want at least a finger's width between the edge of your piece and your hole. The reason is 2 reasons. The first reason is that if you put your hole kind of really close, it's not going to be strong enough to hold when the clay dries. This little tiny skinny bit of clay won't be strong enough to hold your personal crest on the wall, and it will break and fall onto the ground, and you will be so sad. The other reason is that if you have it too close to the edge, then when the clay goes to dry, the little bit of clay will dry very, very quickly, and it will lose moisture very quickly, and it will contract more quickly, and it will just crack. So it's mostly just for the structural integrity of your crest. Make sure you leave a good finger's width from the edge of your piece. So that's a personal crest. Enjoy. Puts more time into it than what I have done today. And if you start working on your personal crest and you think, wow, this is taking too long, how am I going to finish it? You can always get a nice Ziploc bag. You can slide your personal crest into your Ziploc bag and close it, and your project won't dry out at all. The other thing that you can do is, say you leave your clay bits out and you go for dinner and you think, oh gosh, I left my clay out and I forgot. What you can do is take your clay, if it's too dry, stick it into the Ziploc bag. Take some newspaper, get your newspaper kind of wet, and then just stick that newspaper in there and close it up overnight. And just in that amount of time, the moisture from the paper will kind of wick its way into the clay, and it will rehydrate your clay. So you can keep your clay hydrated forever, and if it does end up drying out, you can save it and rejuvenate it. So thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next tutorial. Thanks.